So, welcome back to 300 Seconds from Cannes. Today, I'm joined by Tom Denford, co-founder and co-CEO of ID
That's
Comms.
right.
Welcome, Tom. Good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while.
I know. I said I'll be in London. We're just doing Cannes.
Yeah, exactly. There are worse places to be than Cannes.
Great. So thank you.
How was your Cannes? I know you only arrived yesterday, but how's it been?
I got in late yesterday.
Yeah,
it's good. It is hot.
yeah.
But it's there's a lot of energy here. Somebody said to me last night that we're all feeling a bit grateful for Cannes. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not taking it for granted.
No.
This year, I think people are being a little bit more respectful of it. I mean, it's still a bit over the top, but it's like it feels like, mate, this is not going to last. You know, like we should just appreciate this.
Yeah, maybe. And it also feels that hangover from COVID is fine. This year, to me, it finally feels that it's done and everyone's here in full force.
It's definitely busy, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that 2 o'clock in the morning in the gutter bar, respectful would be the term many would use. But
I think we're appreciating it. I think that was the point.
Yes, we absolutely appreciate it. So, well, thank you for joining us. We obviously talking about agency growth.
Yeah.
And there's probably very few people that know as much about it as you and the crew from ID Comms. So I've got a few questions for you, but obviously we'll probably meander around. So we'll see where we go. Obviously you see the best and the worst of agencies.
Yes.
What do the best performing agencies do outside of a pitch that really sets them up to win?
It's a good question. I mean, we've very gracious introduction there, but so we've as you know, we've been running agency pitches on behalf of brands for 15 years, and both in Europe and in North America, and sometimes globally.
Yeah.
So we've really have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of pitching. Some very good ones, which you've been on the other end of, by the way, at the agency. So,
yes, thank you.
You've had some successes. Outside of a pitch itself, one of the biggest things that is helpful to us is just to have a dialogue with the new business and the leadership team at the agency, because often, obviously, we're in the room earlier, right? So we sit with the CMO or the CPO or global head of media, and they often just ask our opinion. You know, when we're putting those short lists or long lists together, you know, which agencies do you think might be interesting for this brief, both in terms of capabilities and culture? Before it gets down to any, you know, commercial deal, there's a sentimental or sentiment to be kind of discussed. And so those agencies that just are helpful to, from our view, just keep us informed of what's going on. And there's been a lot of changes going on in agencies, and you know, you'd be surprised. Some are very good at communicating, and some you really don't. But when I meet, like, if I'm here, I've got meetings with agency leadership. They always say, you know, what do you think of our agency compared to Publicis, or what do you think of Publicis compared to, you know? And we speak to analysts, industry analysts, and you know, finance markets as well, because they're investing in a lot of those companies, and they're always asking for differences. And so we get to see. We can only share what we know. So I would just basically say, look, if you're an agency, just keep us informed. You know, keep us up to date. The other thing I think outside of kind of broadly outside of a pitch before it starts is, and I say this to agency new biz, you were very good at this. Is when you get a brief, feel free to call us, you know, like call me and just
question it, ask
question, what's going on, what's triggered the pitch, who's involved, how are decisions going to be made. Well, I can't give you any like unfair advantage, but there's definitely context that's not on the page.
Yeah.
That it's super helpful to learn. And again, some agencies are really good at that. They do it, you know, like with military precision, you know, it's part of their workflow. Others is a bit rambly, and so I think those are the two things. The only other advice I would give to an agency leader is, you know, we work in marketing, but agencies are really bad at marketing themselves, right?
You are singing our song. It's almost weird. I find it weird that it's like agencies don't believe in the product that they are selling to clients, i.e. marketing. But when it comes to themselves, it's like, you know, the cobbler's children have the worst shoes. They're awful at it, and they're like, do we need to? It's like, it's a lever for growth. That's what it is. That's, as you advise clients to invest in marketing to grow their business, but they just don't do it themselves. It shocks me.
It's very bad. It's very bad. And you can ask, and that doesn't even need to be external. Like, one of the true tests of that is if you speak to different executives within the same company. And I love getting down to like, what problem are you solving for, right? To any business, to a one-person business up to 100,000 employees, you should have an idea internally of what problem you're solving and why you do it. And that doesn't mean some kind of fancy, ethereal brand purpose mission, but like, what problem do you solve? Why? What do your customers want from you? It's such an important question to ask. I would love it if agencies asked themselves that and had a consistent perspective, because you can ask 11 executives from the same holding company or the same agency, and they come back with different answers, or they're like, well, make up. Why is that not? It should be written on everything that you do, right? It should be absolutely everywhere.
It's why you come to work. It's the purpose of the company.
And it's got to be meaningful to your customer, to the advertiser. So saying things like, data fueled performance, it's like that. That's not a product.
No.
That might be an outcome, but what's the product of the company that you're in? I mean, and you should be working on that all the time. You're probably tired of it as well, but you come to somewhere like Cannes and you just see agencies just rebranding themselves constantly, like new logo, new logo, but what? What is the company for? What does it do? And I think half of it is that agencies get a bit confused internally, because what they think the company's for doesn't necessarily always sit with what the customers think they're buying. And so I think out of some either confusion or guilt or whatever it is, they just kind of go, oh, it's a data fueled performance. It's not really a
And I think the challenge with agencies is, I remember Catherine Tate show where whatever the question was, you go, I can do that. And one minute they will be this because it's FMCG, the next minute they'll be that because it's auto. No, actually you're this. And yes, you'll flex a bit, but they just flip flop around depending on who they're talking to at that moment in time.
And you have to be, I think, agencies are amazing entrepreneurial businesses. I mean, phenomenal, just that's so resilient, so agile. Internally, we know it's chaotic, isn't it? It's bonkers, but they get stuff done, and they move with the times. I mean, really, and particularly a media agency has to constantly be ahead of the curve. But that also comes with that idea that, everyone in an agency feels that they have to be the expert. And it does create, I think, sometimes a bad impression with the what I call the customer, the client, the advertiser, because the agency will just say yes to everything. And if you just say no occasionally, or I don't know,
speak to agencies and they'll go, oh, do we need to know the pitch consultants? And you're like, probably, given they're kind of the gatekeepers to every major pitch. And as you say, some agencies are brilliant at it, but some of them, they're asking this question. You're like, of course you do. And I always say, one, they're just an amazing source of information about what's going on in clients' brains at the moment. They're probably the only source, because a client will never properly articulate it. Whereas you guys are with them all the time. You know what the trends are. You know how the industry's shifting. So even on a purely selfish basis, they should be talking to you guys. But also, it's your job to know the agency landscape. And if an agency is not keeping you up to date, and they'll say, well, they want to talk to us. I was like, of course they do. It's your job to know what the difference is with agencies, because when you put them on a list to a client, I can imagine clients go, well, why are they on it? Why are they on it? And why are they on it?
Exactly right.
So it's absolutely for you to know.
Exactly. And part of it is, okay, fine, put us on a mailing list, and we'll have a chat. And I know it's not just me. I mean, I've got a big team of people that need to be kept up to date on these things. But also, I spend a lot of time with agency leadership, just talking about the industry, and I get a sense of who the leaders are and what they're good at. I make a point twice a year of doing, I call them like agency top to top. So I just meet with the CEOs of all the major agencies, and often some of their team and specialists, to make sure that we're up to date. But also, I want to be able to differentiate the culture of agencies. That I've probably been a bit negative about agency kind of culture, like going back to what we were talking about. There's no real distinct branding and positioning. It's very difficult because they have to be so chameleon-like all the time. So in some ways, the blander they are, maybe the better. But there's still a story that you can stand for. But we'd love to just get more always more from agencies. There's time limits to what we can do, but can's good because you're just going to get to bump into everybody basically in one go and just get an update on what's going on. But yeah, that's it. We are sat with the client.
Yeah.
So while we do pitches, is one of the things that we do and that we're known for. Often we're doing some form of change management or consultancy internally with that marketer.
Yeah.
Often in advance of any pitch.
Yeah.
Just because they're trying to. This is great, isn't it? Brilliant. Keep going.
I thought we'd come somewhere quiet.
Quiet. Okay, that's the chainsaw guy.
Yeah.
Can't get his car out. We're often in advance of a pitch. We're doing some form of consultancy project. Typically, some form of change management. We often work with a CMO to help them redesign and evolve their internal marketing organization, of which media is becoming more central over time. Most marketing orgs now are instead of media being a kind of separate discipline.
It's kind of media out now,
it's much more central. And so that kind of data, insight, and strategy has got to have media in the middle of it in most companies. And so most marketing orgs have built up media capability. And really, we mean people, people and specialisms, and then often a lot of technology. And they're taking over a lot of the contracts from agencies and managing a lot of stuff themselves. So it's almost like a kind of, we don't call it in-housing, but the industry kind of calls that in-housing. But it's really just building that marketer's capability.
Building their own capability,
yeah. So we've often really got a real good sense of the DNA of that client. We've even maybe helped them hire the right people into that organization. So when at some point they pitch, you're right, there's no one better to really know what's going on, perhaps even more so than that team, because we've seen it.
You're looking into it rather than being part of it.
Often, we've designed it. And not only that, we've designed it for 50 other companies as well. So there's a kind of best practice, that comes with it. So I mean, long answer to a short question. Agencies just need to definitely talk to people like us that are sat next to the advertiser.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where do you see agencies, I mean, obviously it will be unintentionally limiting their growth, whether it's how they structure themselves, whether it's how they price themselves. You touched on how they're positioning themselves.
In terms of limiting, they could grow better.
Yeah, I think so. I guess, that's maybe a better question. What advice would you give them? What do they need to do more to grow better?
Yeah. I think the first thing is describe what you do.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's in the market to buy something, if you describe what you do and it meets that need,
then you've
got a pretty good, and it's still a relatively small pond of agencies, really.
Yeah.
When it comes down to what's the right capability and the right fit for that particular client. So that's the first thing, and articulate that in a super clear way. Like, we don't do it anymore, but years ago, I've probably said this to you before, but years ago, we started just counting at the beginning of a pitch how long it took someone to use the word media. Seriously, and
really?
You'd be amazed.
What was the longest?
The longest was 23 minutes.
Before they said the word media?
In a 60-minute meeting.
Wow.
Just the word media.
Yeah.
You think, what a waste of opportunity that is,
Yeah.
What a waste of opportunity. And this is a media agency, just does media, nothing else.
Yeah.
No confusion. It even had media in the name of the agency.
Really?
Okay?
So it's like buying a car and not using the word car for 23 minutes.
Yeah.
Look at this beautiful metal thing.
Talking about, the opportunities of transportation in the modern world,
Yeah.
So just like the basics.
Yeah.
Really get the basics right. That's where we see these are missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Because the agency, they can tend to, because they somehow feel that they have to be the expert at everything, which I think that's such a miss. And they're almost like breathlessly kind of energetic about, we know the future, we know every kind of future opportunity, we're ahead of the curve. It's like a competition to be the best at everything. But really what you want some just really good people that you trust. And I think if you just get down to business and be prepared to say, well, I don't know that, but we're going to find out for you. This is really good.
Yeah.
It just builds trust. There's integrity that comes with that, and reassurance to the client. So that's the way you can probably convert more by just calm down a bit.
Right.
Calm down a little bit. Don't try and over impress. Not a race to impress the client.
No.
I think to go into any kind of process like that, and then even once you've won a piece of business, just be that. You know, the great account people, you've worked with some fabulous account people in agencies as well. They are pragmatic and human and realistic. They are problem solvers, and they're really good at saying no.
Yep.
And they're really good at saying I don't know, but we'll let me come back to you because we're your agency. The people that sit around trying to impress the client all the time just gets a bit dull.
Doesn't work in the end.
For the customer, for that customer, and that is your customer. Doesn't work. I mean, other areas where I think growth is limited is, you know, historically agencies have, when it comes down to the commercial side, what tends to happen, and again, you'll have seen this from the agency side, you know, we will remember it from the agency side, is, you know, it gets down to the kind of final late stages of a pitch, and agencies get so nervous that they just start throwing things at the client
and saying yes to everything.
They didn't ask for, and then, I mean, so, you know, there are some bad pitches that end up, you know, taking advantage of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it is weird for the, you know, and I'm sat with a client or CMO, and they're like, why are they doing that? Why are they giving all away that for free? It makes them suspicious. Why are they throwing all this stuff at us?
Yeah.
Why are they telling us that we're going to do? I mean, they just, you know what it's like. Agencies come up with the same old kind of tropes of things of like, oh, well, we'll give them this. We'll publish a book once a year with them. We'll put it in the contract that we're going to host a villa in Cannes every year with all these things that go in, get thrown. It's like, obviously we're paying for that. You know, like it's not free.
There's no such thing as free.
And I think that, again, it just undermines the credibility of it. And I'm sure that the agency come out with a worse deal.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you want the agency to go, no, like that's what it costs. If you want that's what it costs. And I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you, because I say this to every CMO at the beginning of a pitch, I say the same thing. I say a few things. I say, like, 3 months from now, I'm going to be standing in front of you, and we're going to have, and I want the decision, you're going to be making a decision, and I want that decision to be really difficult. And if we do our job well, that decision is going to be really hard.
You'll have 3 brilliant agencies.
You're going to have 3 brilliant or 2 brilliant agencies that just meet the brief, have worked so hard, come up with amazing things that we want the commercial part to be kind of, you know, equalized and neutral and not factor into the decision.
Yeah.
There's always some differences. And you're going to have a very, very hard decision to make. Then we've done our job very well. Secondly, be prepared now, because I'm going to ask you then, are you prepared to leave money on the table to hire the right agency? Okay? And they go, yeah. And I go, well, you won't say it so readily in 3 months' time. You'll have other people saying, yeah, there's like 5 million quid here, or, you know, $10 million difference, or whatever, you know. That's going to be a discussion for all of you in 3 months' time. So just remember this. Are you prepared to leave money on the table to hire the right agency? And they go, great, yeah, fine. And then, you know, 3 months later, we go, right, it's crunch time.
We told you.
They're like, we love this agency, but this agency's offering us, you know, $10 million extra or something. Okay, well, there you go. Okay, so now you just have to decide. Both are legitimate business decisions. You know, sometimes you think, actually, we can deal with a couple of the gaps here because that commercial deal is maybe right. And then we get accused of, it always got decided on price, when I didn't, because those 2 agencies got to the final stages. Always the stronger agency is going to cost a little bit more, because agencies know how to price themselves pretty well.
You get what you pay for.
And you do get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might find, you know that there are dynamics behind one individual pitch where that agency needs to win an airline, you know, or particularly wants something, and they dial up the commercials a bit more.
Yeah.
We're not pushing them to be $10 million cheaper, but that's where they've gone to. And typically the client goes, well, I want that agency
at that cost.
And we go, well, we'll try. And that's where sometimes we do come back and we say, look, you're the preferred agency. But we just need to, and it's almost always the case.
Yeah.
Okay, is that the second agency knows that they're probably second, and not that we tell them, but they know that they've got some shortcomings or some gaps, and so they dial up the commercial to make that decision difficult. All that happens is that shifts the focus on the other. And if they said no at that point, they might still win the business.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a option, because you've hopefully got a marketer there who's saying, okay, we're prepared to leave a bit of money on the table because we know that's the right agency. So that's my other bit of advice, is that sometimes just have the balls to say no. It's difficult when you've been working on something for months, but
and there's tens of millions.
Can say no. You know, sometimes you can say no. And we've had some examples of that, and the clients go, all right, fair enough. Okay. All right. How about 8 million? No. But I think that's it, you know, and so just don't give away too much for free.
No.
I don't think it really helps you long term. And
interesting.
It's so difficult. I mean, you've been in that situation many times. Where it comes down to you're in the final. You know, you're in the World Cup final, and you know, do you decide not to play? You know, it's really difficult. It's really difficult.
Absolutely. So I spent 25 years aging myself now in holdcos. And I've come out now and found a really vibrant, independent set of agencies. And I know at ID Comms you do a lot of global pitches, you probably work more with the holdcos. What's your view on these indies? You know, do they feel that they have more of a heart and a soul? Do they behave differently? Are they a bit more haphazard? Or
no? I mean, I'm based full time in New York.
So you've got some beefs like US. Horizon, and
there are some big independent agencies, obviously in the US that would dwarf even the largest agencies in, you know, in a European country. I mean, Horizon's obviously the biggest example of that. But I mean, having been in the US quite a long time now, I'm still discovering amazing independent agencies. It is so rich, way more than we're used to in the UK. The US is, I mean, you think of the US as like 50 different countries. Of course, you would look at the whole of Europe and go, it's amazingly rich and diverse, all these different independent agencies. Unfortunately, they all speak different languages in their different countries, different tax codes, all that kind of stuff. But in the US, you've got a richness, giant richness of long tail independent agencies, all the way from, you know, the multi-billion-dollar Horizons down to kind of small co-founding agencies. That they are, in my experience, probably better organized.
Interesting.
Because they have to be. They can't come with the strongest commercial model necessarily, so they have to win on their capabilities. You're right.
I was just seeing where my glass was.
Oh, okay. Don't worry. The independent agencies, they have to win on their capabilities, and so we find them generally better organized. They typically do have a better sense of positioning. Often because they're founder led, and so they've got a story that they can be proud of, and they just stick to that story.
They have an origin story, don't they?
And there's not some new CEO coming to the agency deciding, oh, we should change the logo and change the creds and all that kind of stuff, which is what a lot of agencies spend a lot of time doing. A lot of the publicly owned ones. But independent, on the media side, independent agencies not only are thriving, I think, but will become increasingly important as the holdco agencies, what we might call them. Continue to consolidate, which I think that they will continue to consolidate. So we've got obviously a potential Omnicom and IPG merger going on this year, and there will be further moves that way. WPP have kind of done an internal consolidation of all their media assets into WPP Media, and I keep saying I'm not going to call it WPP Media because it's so hard to say. But you know, those will consolidate. I mean, I think in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll have Omnicom, Publicis, WPP. And that's probably it. In terms of, well, they will have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Then there'll be the kind of the mid-sized agencies, the Horizons, the Dentsu, the Havas, the Stagwell, who I think are in for a bit of a tough time. Because the kind of big three at that point will be very different businesses. They are doing it now, but they're accelerating their business model to be really focused on principal buying. Not that that's a bad thing; it's just a way of doing media. So I'm not really necessarily a naysayer on that stuff, but that is a choice that you make. If that's your business, that's your business. But it's arbitrage, it's brokering media, and so if you start to do that at a significant enough scale, those three businesses that's the path they're on. Then there comes a point where most of the media traded will be brokered really and not bought.
Yep.
So there'll be bigger sellers of media than they are buyers of media, and that flips the model. Obviously, then they are then the marketplace.
Yep.
And and that's the path they're on. Whenever you're on the marketplace, you want to be the whole marketplace. So that's why they're chasing scale right now. So there's in the pitches that we're doing this year, those three particularly incredibly competitive commercially. I mean, I wouldn't say they're buying business, but you know what I mean when I say that. Is that they're really going that extra, right? Because they know long term that scale is going to play out and give them the marketplace. So those middle-sized agencies, let's call them, so no disrespect to any of those, the amazing agencies, are going to be caught in the middle because they can't play that scale size.
They're not the scale and they're not the nimble. Indie.
And they're kind of half in and half out. So they're half. Some of them are doing a bit more principal arbitrage stuff than others, but probably they're not going to get to the 100%. So that they've got to decide what they're going to do. I've been saying to the leadership of those agencies, you've got to make a decision now. Or someone's going to come in and buy them, or they'll buy each other or something. They're basically ripe for their own consolidation. And then that leaves you with a huge, great, rich tapestry of kind of independent agencies who, the more that these bigger agencies consolidate and become more sellers of media than buyers of media, that independence is going to grow in value, because an advertiser's going to rely on some of the skills of an independent agency to be objective, neutral, channel agnostic, all those kind of great things that are all about to just get completely lost in an arbitrage model. If I was running I'd quite enjoy right now, I think, to be running an independent media agency. And it probably feels tough because you probably think the whole market's consolidating and we're going to get stuck. But bizarrely, I think this is the time to be a comms planner. This is a time to be an independent, neutral thinker in media. And marketer, the CMOs can either hire those people in, the real top talent, or they're going to want to have that in consulting into their business. So I can see some truly independent and objective agencies positioning themselves as kind of like data insight and strategy more than media buying, and I think there's going to be great value in that.
I saw there was a report from eMarketer came out at the end of last year showing the share of client spend between independents, holdcos, and clients.
And
the holdcos have lost 15 percentage points in 5 years.
Yeah.
All to go in house, and I know there's a structural thing there. They work with big clients. Big clients are more likely to in-house.
Yeah.
But the indies have only lost like 1%.
Yeah.
There's definitely, it's a very, very vibrant market.
Yeah.
And I love talking to them because you say they've got a heart and a soul, and they kind of believe in what they're doing.
This is a good example, right? We're here at PMG. I mean, amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of, founder-driven agency.
Yep.
It's growing phenomenally well, and they're very nice hosting us in their lovely villa.
I know, it's very nice, isn't it? Agencies often get accused of putting the pitch team on a pitch, and then a client will never see them again.
Yeah.
What do you think separates an agency that's just built to win a pitch from one that's building for long-term growth? Do you see different behaviours in them?
My immediate reaction to that question is which agency falls into the second category, because I don't know if there are any. Like, they can't help themselves. They've got to chase the pitch. I mean, it's so. Maybe being a bit flippant there. What's the difference? I mean, agency is always going to know the people that are good in those situations, and really that's. So the agency leadership. If you're hiring agency leadership, if you're a CEO or you're hiring a new CEO for an agency, that person has got to be able to win pitches.
Yeah.
Because an agency CEO, that's your job.
That's it. Yeah.
That really is it. Sales.
Yeah.
And that's true of any company, particularly a founder company. But if you're CEO, you've got to be able to sell your company. And I wish CEOs were better at that. I think they think their job, again, is to be the media expert. Don't need to be a media expert. They think their job is to be some kind of operational leadership, because agencies are kind of like this. chaotic organic thing and it needs some kind of operational, military leader or something, or they just think it's their job maybe is to kind of schmooze around in Cannes and have lunch with people, but all of those things might be true, but your number one job is selling.
Yeah.
You've got to be really good at that, and then get some people around you who are then good at selling. So that can be the kind of sales part of a pitch, and then bring the team in.
Yeah.
Absolutely bring the team in. And we've had some really good examples. I've had an agency CEO call me and say, look, we've got this analyst who's quite junior and maybe he's a bit shy or she's not done a pitch before, but we'd love to bring them into the team. And, you've said like meet the team, but I just want to let you know these, I'm bringing unpolished gems in.
Yeah.
We're like, great. It's really good. Honestly, clients are not stupid. They're people. They are people, and they understand that they know that someone can be nervous. That's okay.
Yeah.
They're there to listen, and genuinely, as best we can, we get the client in the mindset, which is, please pay attention, right? Don't be wowed by the shiny thing.
This is not a production. This is a meeting.
Seduced by the flashy, new biz guy, because he's very, very handsome and compelling. But, Patrick's not going to be working on your business, right? But he makes a good cup of coffee.
Yep.
So, and look at the actual people, really pay attention to the people and what they're saying.
Yeah.
Some of them might be junior, some of them might be nervous, but we've asked for that. So I think that, that's, we try and push that a bit more.
Yeah.
You can have the same agency leadership in a pitch, that's fine. And I want to see those people again and again because we want to string the consistency across different things. But yeah, show us the team.
It's interesting what you said at the beginning when you kind of laughed about agencies are chasing the pitch. We speak to lots of agencies. You're kind of like, what's your growth strategy? And it's just glaze over. It's like,
yeah.
And also say, if you pitch for 10 clients, you might win 1. If you pitch for 5, you might win 3.
Yeah.
Because you can put so much more attention on it. I think agencies just pitch far too often. We talk to agencies about kind of, you've got to be 120% in or 120% out, because if you're not, someone will. Yeah. And it always used to frustrate me when leadership go, oh, let's give it a go. No, don't give it a go.
Yeah.
Go. All you're going to do is, even if you can give 80%, you categorically won't win, because somebody's going to be giving it their all.
We can tell immediately.
Yeah, the way they walk in the room.
You can tell. Well, even before, like just the first bits of correspondence, somebody's right on it.
Yeah.
And really organised.
Yeah.
And it's because they've said, we really want to win this. We absolutely want to win this one. And so often the agency CEO will call me and say, we really want to win this one. Okay, tell us what we need to do. Like, I'm just telling you now.
Statement of intent.
This is absolutely our priority. We want to win this one. You don't call me and say that if it's not true, because chances are I might tell the client that, they're really in it, and then you're really disappointing, and
then they bowl up, and
okay, you're not taking it seriously. But we can tell very early who's really up for it and who's not.
Yeah, nice. If you could advise an agency to hardwire one kind of either mindset or behavior into their people for growth, what would it be? Just a real...
Well, I think it comes back to what we were saying earlier. What I would say to an agency who wants to hardwire their agency for growth is have a very simple story that you tell about the problem that you solve, and make sure every single person in your organization can repeat it back to you exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that whether it's from the most senior to the most junior person, just have that consistency of messaging. It's just got to be something that's quite practical. It doesn't have to be super impressive. Just say what you do and have everybody describe it in the same way. That's so powerful. It's so powerful. And have everybody with that same mindset in a pitch. You'll find people make reference to those same things. It just reinforces it. It comes on everything. It's just consistent. And then you make it easier for a customer to buy your product or service if you just describe what you do.
One of my previous agencies had a very clear idea of who it was. Every piece of marketing spoke to that. The technology it built was around that. The clients that they went after were those that would want that. And when you go into a pitch, we would always say like 30% of every pitch deck was written before it landed, because the agency knew exactly who it was I remember one of your the other pitch consultants said to me, we always knew exactly what we were going to get from this agency.
Yeah.
He said, not in a formulaic way, but it also then, I guess, helps you guys going, are they going to be right on this pitch?
Yeah.
Because, well, we know agency X is about this, but this pitch is about that, so we won't put them on.
Yeah.
Just being super clear.
Well, we want to understand the capabilities and the details behind the agency. But I think just a consistency, just a clarity of message internally. And that helps in so many things. It helps with talent recruitment and retention.
Yeah.
It helps you churn talent that maybe they go, I don't like that idea. I don't buy that. Well, great. Go work somewhere else. Go work for a different agency. So I think that I'd love to see more of that. Just real clarity of message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. I have one last question for you that's got nothing to do with, well, it's technically about media and advertising. Right. Do you have any amusing anecdotes or stories about maybe other people yourselves are from Cannes?
Oh, from Cannes?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh dear.
Most people say, not that I wish to share on camera.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Not that I'm going to share on camera. Embarrassing story. Well, I told you I accidentally cancelled the wrong meeting this morning by thinking it was with somebody else who had the same name.
Right. Okay.
And I called them to apologise, and they said, "What?" And then I thought I'd cancelled it, and then someone called me and said, "Where are you?" So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's.
I did trip over last night. Not very drunk, but I did trip over last night at dinner.
Right.
Which was a little bit embarrassing.
Okay.
Like old man. Somebody had to come and help me
up.
Not quite.
We're early.
There's plenty of that.
You've still got a couple of nights yet.
There's some embarrassment yet to have.
Yeah. We'll come find you on Thursday night in the Gutter Bar, and we'll see if you've got any other stories.
I will not be there, but
no.
But
thank you very much, Tom.
Imagine that I was there.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been a brilliant conversation.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. And I'll see you soon.
Good.
Take care.
Thank you.